Friends, we can all see that many white bloggers have millions of followers. Please support me too, because my followers are still few. Black bloggers also deserve to be famous. My friends, let's unite and lift each other up. Please press subscribe button and like. In the heart of Texas, where the sun dipped low over sprawling ranches, Roland Jeffries found solace in the rhythm of his land. A veteran of 2 tours in Afghanistan, he had traded the chaos of war for quietude of Palamosa, a small town where neighbors waved and doors remained unlocked. But tranquility can be deceptive, and on one fateful evening, it would be tested as Roland sat on his porch, oiling a set of garden shears. The sound of gravel crunching under tires broke the stillness. He glanced up, expecting a friendly neighbor, but the dark SUV that rolled into his driveway was anything but familiar. 2 men emerged, clad in tactical vests that gleamed under the porch lights. Their demeanor was aggressive, and Roland's instincts kicked in. Something was off. "Mr. Jeffries," the taller man called out, flashing a badge that looked more like a cheap prop than a legitimate credential. "We're here on behalf of the Homeowners Association. We need to secure any firearms on your property for a safety review." Roland's brow furrowed. "Homeowners Association? I didn't think this land fell under any association." The shorter man smirked, tapping a folder under his arm. "Regulations have changed. We have a warrant." Roland set the shears down, his pulse quickening, not from fear, but from the thrill of a challenge. He had faced far worse in combat. "If you have a warrant, let me see it." The taller man stepped closer, producing a flimsy piece of paper that looked like it had been printed on a home printer. Roland scanned it quickly. The font was off, the signature pixelated. He had seen counterfeit documents before, and this was no different. "Is this a joke?" Roland asked, amusement creeping into his voice. "You think I'm going to hand over my firearms based on this?" The shorter man's bravado faltered. "Just hand over the guns, Mr. Jeffries. No need to make this harder." Roland leaned back against the porch post, arms crossed. "You come to my ranch after dark with fake badges and expect me to comply? You're lucky I don't treat you like intruders." The taller man shifted nervously, glancing at the SUV. Roland could sense the tension in the air. Instead of escalating the situation, he pressed a button on a remote clipped to his belt. Floodlights illuminated the yard, erasing every shadow. "Let me be clear," Roland said, his voice steady. "I don't take kindly to strangers on my property, and I don't scare easily." The imposters squinted against the glare, their confidence wavering. Roland knew he had the upper hand. He stepped back toward the door, ensuring the security camera had a clear view of them. "You're on camera. Everything you're saying is recorded. Think twice before making this a bad night." The taller man muttered something under his breath, but Roland remained unfazed. He had trained for moments like this, and he wasn't about to let these 2 amateurs dictate the terms. "Who are you, really?" Roland demanded, his voice low and commanding. "Because I know this isn't about any homeowners association." The shorter man hesitated, his bravado crumbling. "We don't answer to anyone but the association." Roland chuckled, shaking his head. "Funny, because Palo Mesa doesn't have a homeowners association." The taller man's jaw clenched, and Roland could see the panic rising. "You're making a mistake, Jeffries. We can call in backup." "Go ahead," Roland replied, his tone calm. "Call them. I'll wait." Silence hung heavy in the air, the only sound the distant chirping of crickets. Roland stood firm, his presence commanding. He had faced down threats before, and he wouldn't back down now. "Let me ask you something," he said, lowering his voice. "If this is official, why aren't there squad cars? Why are you driving a black SUV with no plates?" The shorter man's face twitched, and Roland could see the cracks in their facade. "We're just following orders," he stammered. "From who?" Roland pressed, his instincts sharpening. "Because I know damn well it wasn't any homeowners association." The taller man shifted again, and Roland noticed the bulge of a weapon under his vest. He made a mental note, ready for any sudden movements. "You're trespassing," Roland said, his voice steady. "You have 2 minutes to tell me who you really are before I treat this like a break-in." The tension escalated, and Roland could feel the air crackling with potential violence. But he remained calm, assessing the situation like he had done countless times before in combat. "Stop playing smart, Jeffries," the taller man growled, stepping closer. "Just hand it over." "No," Roland replied, folding the fake warrant and slipping it into his pocket. "This is evidence now. If I turn this over to the sheriff, they'll want to know who thought it was a good idea to fake government documents. That's a felony." The taller man's face turned red with anger, but Roland stood his ground. "You're on my property, and I don't take kindly to threats." Just then, the faint sound of sirens echoed in the distance, and Roland seized the moment. "You hear that? That's the sound of your time running out." The imposters froze, their bravado crumbling. The taller man cursed under his breath, and the shorter one looked ready to bolt. "We can explain this," he shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. Roland kept his phone aimed at them, recording every moment. "You're not going anywhere until the deputies arrive. You made your choice when you drove up here pretending to be something you're not." As the sirens grew louder, the imposters' confidence shattered. The first cruiser pulled into the driveway, lights flashing, and deputies stepped out, commanding the men to raise their hands. Roland watched as the imposters were cuffed and led away, their faces twisted in anger and disbelief. He had stood his ground, and now the community would know the truth that in the days that followed, news of the incident spread through Palamosa like wildfire. Neighbors who had once taken their safety for granted now gathered to discuss the importance of vigilance. Roland became an unexpected hero, not for his bravery, but for his calm demeanor in the face of danger at TA town meeting. Sheriff Douglas Hart praised Roland's actions. "You showed us how to handle a threat without resorting to violence. We need to be prepared to verify before we trust." Roland spoke to the crowd, his voice steady. "Trust is important, but blind trust can be dangerous. We must guard our peace and be ready to protect what's ours." As the community rallied together, Roland felt a sense of purpose. He had not only defended his land, but had also awakened a collective awareness among his neighbors. They were no longer just individuals. They were guardians of their community. But as the days turned into weeks, whispers of a larger threat began to circulate. Roland learned that the imposters were part of a network targeting rural areas, exploiting the trust of unsuspecting residents. The sheriff's office had received reports of similar incidents across central Texas, and the fear that had settled over Palamosa was palpable. One evening, as Roland sat on his porch, he received a call from Sheriff Hart. "Roland, we need to talk. There's been another incident, and I think it's connected to what happened at your ranch." Roland's heart raced. "What do you mean?" "There's a pattern emerging. These men are working in teams, moving from town to town. We believe they're part of a larger operation, and we need your help to stop them." Roland felt a surge of determination. "What do you need me to do?" "We're organizing a community meeting to discuss safety measures and how to identify these imposters. I want you to speak. Your experience could help others prepare." Roland agreed, knowing that the safety of his community depended on their awareness. As he hung up, he felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. The imposters had underestimated him once, but he wouldn't let them do so again. The night of the meeting arrived, and the community hall was packed. Neighbors filled the seats, their faces a mix of concern and determination. Roland stood at the front, ready to share his experience and the lessons he had learned. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady. "What happened at my ranch was not just an isolated incident. We are facing a threat that could come to any one of us. But together, we can protect our community." As he spoke, he could see the fear in their eyes transform into resolve. He shared the details of his encounter, emphasizing the importance of verifying credentials and not succumbing to intimidation. The room buzzed with energy as neighbors began to discuss their own experiences and concerns. But just as the atmosphere shifted toward empowerment, a loud crash echoed from outside. The doors of the community hall burst open, and a group of masked men stormed in, brandishing weapons. "Everyone down!" one of them shouted, and chaos erupted. Roland's instincts kicked in. He had trained for moments like this, and he wasn't about to let fear take over. "Stay calm," he shouted, his voice cutting through the panic. "Get to the back." As the crowd scrambled, Roland assessed the situation. He could see the imposters were armed, but they were also disorganized. He needed to act quickly. "Everyone follow me," he commanded, leading a group toward a back exit. He knew they had to get out before the situation escalated further. But as they reached the door, one of the masked men spotted them. "Stop right there," he yelled, raising his weapon at Roland's heart race, but he stood firm. "You don't want to do this," he shouted, trying to buy time. The tension in the air was thick, and Roland could feel the weight of the moment. He had faced danger before, but this was different. The safety of his community was at stake, and he wouldn't back down. Just then, the sound of sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder. The imposters exchanged nervous glances, and Roland seized the opportunity. "We're not afraid of you," he shouted, his voice steady. "You're outnumbered." The masked men hesitated, and in that moment, Roland knew he had to act. He pushed the door open and led the group outside. Ready to confront the threat head dash on as they stepped into the night. The flashing lights of the sheriff's cruisers illuminated the scene, and Roland felt a surge of hope. They were not alone. The community had come together, and they would stand strong against any threat that dared to challenge their peace. But as the confrontation unfolded, Roland knew this was just the beginning. The fight for their safety was far from over, and he was ready to lead the charge. And in that moment, as the sirens blared and the community rallied behind him, Roland understood that true peace was not merely the absence of danger. It was the unwavering resolve to protect what mattered most. Do you want to know the fate of the heroes? Please post part 2. Subscribe to the channel and continue watching. Your opinion and support are important to me. Leave it in the comments. Thank you.